Hi, and welcome to RADTV. My name is Noah Detzer, and I'm your host for this evening, and tonight I'm joined by Emma Schoenberg and Elise Greaves. RADTV, for those of you just turning in for the first time, is based on Rights and Democracy. Rights and Democracy is a grassroots, people-led organization designed to create an independent power, basically giving that political movement and encouraging people to make that long-lasting change. There are all kinds of issues that we're seeing today, and the goal of RAD and other political activism groups is to make that change and to start working for a better world. Tonight, as I mentioned before, I'm joined by two people from RAD, Emma Schoenberg and Elise Greaves. Elise is the political engagement coordinator at RAD, and Emma is the lead organizer. So tonight, we're going to be speaking about a lot of things, including the RAD Community Survey, Nina Turner, early voting, and maple syrup, because what else are you going to do on a Vermont show? So thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks, Noah.
Thank you. And we're going to go ahead and get started with the RAD Community Survey. So we're going to talk a little bit first about what the survey is, and then why it was implemented and what the results were, what you guys took from it. Mm-hmm. So first, what is the point of sending out this survey? Why would we send out a community survey to various people, and what's the point of that?
The community survey at its very core is a listening project. A lot in our current state of politics involves a lot of people telling a bunch of other people what they should care about. And so with this listening project, we're kind of switching that on its head. We're asking people, what should we work on? This survey was developed in a national cohort with some of our national affiliates. And so really focusing on rural and small towns to have that conversation about why have we made the choices that we've made politically in the last couple of years. Originally, for our work in New Hampshire, this was in pivot counties that had voted for Obama one year, and then in the next electoral cycle, we're talking about Trump. The community survey takes about 10 minutes to complete. We have it online, we have it in paper. We're going out on the doors, knocking in rural communities across the state, asking people to fill out this survey, and it really is nonpartisan. It kind of spans all of the issues that might concern somebody in their issue, whether it's systemic racism or clean water. And we're taking this data and we're using it to inform the choices that we make as an overall organization. If you've been involved with Rights and Democracy in the past, you know that we have a people's platform. That's our statewide people-generated platform that pursues policy solutions to some of these issues. This can also inform the questions that we ask candidates when they're seeking our endorsement. It means that the work that we're doing truly is bottom-up and member-led. Throughout the summer, we're going to be taking the survey and hosting roundtables and community forums. So taking this as a jumping off point for a deeper conversation about the actual impact of economic inequality and other forms of oppression in our communities.
So if you're interested in joining the discussion that we have tonight, being a part of the conversation, much like Emma just mentioned, if you want to give us a call at 802-862-3966, we'd love to hear from you. Once again, that's 802-862-3966. Emma, I wanted to ask you, so what kind of engagement and interest have you seen in the survey so far?
Yeah, I think that so far we've seen a lot of good ownership over the survey. There are people who find that this is a really important project that Rights and Democracy is working on. So these new leaders, people that we haven't talked to before, are stepping out of the woodwork and saying, I want to talk to my friends and neighbors about this. Additionally, this really inspired us to start going door to door. And so every staff member in RAD is going out there and knocking on doors and talking to people and then handing them this survey. So not only is it a good engagement point with the members that we already have, but we're seeing new people really take on leadership roles when it comes to this work.
Yeah, and so what are people's main interests? Like, what are you seeing as a main result of this?
We haven't collected the data or really done any math behind it, but I will say that when I personally go through them and read them, it's reinforcement of that concept of intersectionality. Very few people are solely impacted on just one issue. In fact, it really spans a range, which is why the survey is so helpful. So just one survey is a good example of how our issues do intersect and how we need to be working on them all together.
Mm-hmm. I would also say, I've been out knocking doors as well, and when it comes to interest, I think something that's really unique and interesting about the community survey and this project is that, we're trying to get outside of the echo chamber, right, and talk to folks who may not share all of our values, but we're talking to folks of very different backgrounds, and I think we all share some very common interests in, the future of our state, in making sure that people are able to, support themselves and lead, happy and healthy lives. And that's been really striking to me out doing this project.
Yeah.
And one thing that I repeatedly hear over and over again is just the line, "No one's ever asked me that before." And when I hear that, I know that we're doing something right with this survey, because we should be asking these questions.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it's so critical to be asking these questions first and foremost, but then compiling them and seeing as a community what things are not reported on, what things are maybe on people's minds but haven't been mentioned as a part of the conversation. And so it's so key to see that happen. So I'm glad that that's happening. As I mentioned before too, if you're interested in being a part of the conversation tonight, if you want to call in, please feel free to do so. At this point, we're going to shift gears a little bit and talk about some of the upcoming events, specifically Nina Turner, who you may know as the state senator from Ohio, who's involved with Our Revolution, is going to be coming to Burlington to be leading a couple of discussions. And I wanted to turn it over to Emma and Elise to talk a little bit about that.
Yes, so we are very excited that the former senator from Ohio, Nina Turner, is going to be joining us next Friday and Saturday in Vermont and New Hampshire. Nina is the president of Our Revolution, which is the organization that came out of Senator Bernie Sanders' 2016 campaign for president. And so she will be joining us for a tour, a barnstorm, if you will, all across the state. So we're going to kick it off down in Bristol, Vermont, Friday afternoon. We have an endorsed candidate down there, Mari Cordes, who's going to be doing a joint event with Nina. And it's also going to be a great opportunity to have one of these community roundtables, as Emma had mentioned, with the community survey. Really, in all of these events, we want the community survey to be at the center, right? Reporting back to candidates about what we're finding with the survey, and opportunities for folks to be filling them out and engaging with the dialogue with their neighbors.
Right.
And then in Rutland and Bennington that same evening, we are hosting 2 gubernatorial forums. And so those will also be, an incredible opportunity for the public in those areas to hear from the candidates who are vying to be our next governor. All the candidates have been invited. Phil Scott has declined the invitation, which was not a surprise, but all the Democratic candidates have been confirmed. So we're looking forward to both of those events. And the inspirational Senator Turner, I'm very excited for that.
Yeah, it should be good. As a reminder too, the four candidates currently declared for the governor nominee, I guess, for Democratic president, or governor, excuse me.
President of Vermont.
President of Vermont, there you go. Right, so there's Ethan Sunborn, who is 14, I think.
Yes.
Brenda Siegel, James Ellers, and Christine Hallquist. So it's a motley crew, and we'll see what happens there.
Yeah. We're excited,
Yeah.
absolutely. And in addition, the most local event that will be happening is Saturday, June 30th, at the Miller Center in the New North End of Burlington, where we're going to be joined by Senator Turner, Lieutenant Governor Zuckerman, Ali Jang, City Councilor out there, and music by Dwight Nicole. And so we're really excited about that. We're calling it our From Protest to Power Party.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Yeah, here's an image.
Yeah.
Yep.
There.
Again, that's from 7 to 9. It is a ticketed event, so I would suggest getting your tickets early.
Yeah.
$20, radvt.org.
Okay, very cool. radvt.org.
Yes.
So yeah, once again, that's on the 29th. That's going to be one in Rutland and then one in Bennington, and on the 30th, that's here in Burlington. So if that's the kind of thing that you might be interested in, if it's something that you want to be a part of, it's a really great way to get involved on kind of the more local level, see which gubernatorial candidate maybe feels kind of like most aligned with your views, and then go ahead and come out and support them. And then ideally volunteer for them once yeah, once you've made your decision.
Absolutely. And, ideally throughout the summer, we're going to be hosting more of these forums across the state. This is a really great opportunity to be educating folks and, helping people come to informed decisions about, where they want to cast their vote in August. So yeah, we're really excited about that as well.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, it should be a good event. So we'll see how that goes. Emma, did you have anything to add to that, or did you?
I'm looking forward to this party on Saturday. I think there are very few times in this movement where we get to come together just to celebrate all the work that we're doing together. Dwight and Nicole are fantastic musicians that have supported us in the past. There will be a cash bar. We will all be there in our finest or our RAD t-shirts. And I'm excited to do something in the New North End as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Right. Cool. Well, at this point, we're going to switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit more about early voting. So we've confirmed with the Secretary of State for Vermont that early voting is going to begin on June 29th. June 29th, so a week from today, for the August 14th primaries. And that is, again, going to be everywhere from the gubernatorial candidates all the way down to more local levels, state senators, state representatives, that sort of thing. So more and more voters have been taking advantage of voting early, which means you can vote by mail or in person any day from the 29th up until the actual election day on August 14th. And so basically, if you want to call your town clerk, they'll be happy to mail you a ballot, or you can go into to your city hall to talk to your town clerk in person and vote there. I don't know if you guys wanted to share anything about early voting in general, or what our viewers can do to make sure that they are as informed as possible as they either go into the voting booth in August or as they fill out their ballots ahead of time.
Sure.
Well, I'll just point out that this is a part of Vermont that is really near and dear to my heart. And it's a trend that we're seeing in Vermont that's different than the rest of the country. As it gets harder and harder to vote, there are more barriers put up in other states, as we've seen in the news. Vermont has continuously made it easier and easier. So one of the first campaigns that Rights and Democracy ever engaged in was automatic voter registration, which meant you had to opt out of being a registered voter at the DMV as opposed to making that extra step to opt in. Even before that, same-day voter registration, meaning you could register to vote and then go vote. That was another bill that was passed, and now with the kind of continuous effort to increase access to early voting. All of this is just a trend in Vermont that shows that our democracy is alive and well, and we're still encouraging that for higher voting rates,
Right.
which just means you have to get out there and vote.
Yeah, exactly. And that's really, our job as organizers, to get folks, to that place. There are a lot of folks that I talk to on the door who are like, I don't vote, and it's, the conversation, can't really stop there. And so, right, it's our job to help folks see the importance. And, frankly, if people aren't voting, a huge part of the work that we're doing is, kind of not relevant, right? Because we have this whole movement politics arm, and yeah, we need to be turning out voters, and we need to be encouraging folks to vote early. And also, I will plug, the municipal elections back in March, I registered same day, was able to vote, very easy. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, well, and also too, I don't know if we mentioned on the program yet, but Elise was the campaign manager for Karina Driscoll in her run to be mayor. So yeah, definitely
Yes.
a lot of experience with voting, registration to voting, all that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I mean, I think it's really key and really nice that in Vermont specifically, we've had this push to make sure that voting is as accessible as it is, just based on kind of gerrymandering and all that sort of stuff around the country. It's just not the same. And so the fact that we have a state that is not only actively encouraging people, but also is really, struggling to make sure that people are as involved as possible is really fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
At least, how does early voting, do you think, kind of play into RAD's endorsement process?
Yeah. So, as Noah mentioned earlier, folks sometimes take a while to figure out who they want to vote for. One thing that as an organization that's kind of crucial to this piece that we are going to be taking on in the next couple of months leading up to August is sitting down with candidates who, maybe share our values. They'll fill out a questionnaire and then sharing that with the membership. And then, of course, making an endorsement decision. So if people, have any questions about who to support in a given race, I would like us to be that sort of place where folks go and check out who we've recommended and endorsed, and yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think based on kind of RAD's history with endorsing candidates and going through, I think it's a really great resource to check out. Once again, if you want to look up RAD online, that's radvt.org, and then also radnh.org, right, for the New Hampshire wing of things too.
Yep.
So either of those are going to be good. Looks like we've got a caller on line 1 here. So we're going to go ahead and take that if that's
Never
cool.
happened to me before.
Me neither.
All right, caller, you are on the air, I think. If you want to go ahead and state your name and what question you wanted to ask.
Hello, everybody. This is Grant Taylor.
I knew it.
Grant Taylor, how's it going? Grant, former host of the show and
Hey, Grant.
current member of RAD, is calling in.
All right. I'm just double checking on the early voting
Yeah.
and who people might be thinking about in their communities, that positions, who they're going to be looking at to vote for and when the election actually is. And that's what's coming up pretty soon.
Sure. Yeah. So are you just talking about what positions are going to be available to vote for on the ballot?
Right. Like when we're saying, so there's early voting coming up. Yeah. Who this is an early voting. This is for November. This is for governor. For everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the June 29th early voting is actually for the primary. So folks have to go through the primary before the general. And so the primary this year is on August 14th. And so, right, when you cast your vote, it would be for a primary election.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Wanted to make sure that we all kind of understood that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. And so in terms of the positions that are going to be on the ballot for starting a week from today and then ending August 14th on the actual election day, we're going to see gubernatorial candidates, the 4 that we mentioned earlier in the program, lieutenant governor, and then all the way down to state senators and state representatives.
And would it be those positions also that we talked about on, I think it was one of the previous shows that the ACLU was involved with?
Oh, yeah, the very...
State's attorneys.
Yeah, state's attorneys.
Okay, cool. That's coming up August 14th.
August 14th, yeah, is the...
Or June 29th if you'd like to early vote.
Yeah, if you want to really get out ahead of it, then June 29th, so...
All right, well, thanks, guys.
Thank you, Grant.
Thank you, Grant.
Grant.
Always good to hear from you.
Awesome.
Okay.
How do we hang this thing up?
Like that, yeah.
Great.
All right, excellent. So it was always good to hear from Grant Taylor, former host of the show. If you want to be a part of the show as well, go ahead and call in at 802-862-3966. Once again, that's 802-862-3966. At this point, we're going to shift our focus a little bit and talk a little bit about maple syrup labels. So it's as one of the topics we brought up at the start of the show. So the U.S. Food and Drug Administration is reconsidering a proposal requiring maple syrup and honey to carry labels saying that they contain added sugar. So there's this idea that that's going to have to be on every label, make sure that people know that. But there's concern that the label is going to lead consumers to believe that the products are artificially sweetened instead of in their natural state, which kind of betrays a fundamental misunderstanding of the maple sugaring process. So Elise is a 7th generation Vermonter, so I think she is more than equipped to be able to talk about this. If she wants, I'll open up the floor a little bit here.
This is an absolute travesty. Just kidding. I don't actually feel that strongly about it. I do think it's ridiculous.
Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts, Emma?
Well, I have spent many hours sitting around a boiler after hauling in the sap, and I never did add any sugar. I did take away a lot of water from the sap to leave the sugar behind. But other than that, I definitely did not see any sugar being added. So I believe that we should really contact the FDA and have them come out on a sugaring operation with us and make them hike through the snow for hours and hours and hours checking syrup lines.
You know, I think...
Making sure people aren't dumping sugar in there.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Most importantly.
So the FDA has said that it's going to take time to review comments in response to the idea with an eye towards revising the proposed rule. So if you have comments, the FDA is apparently taking them. So it'd be good to chime in. Just as a quick aside here too, Vermont's congressional delegation welcomed the announcement. Patrick Leahy, Bernie Sanders, our state senators, and Peter Welch, our representative, issued a joint statement via email. The statement reads, "Vermont maple is the gold standard of maple syrup and contains nothing but pure sap straight from the tree. We're glad that the FDA has decided to take into account the thousands of comments from producers, consumers, and from us, pointing out that an added sugar label makes no sense for pure maple syrup. We hope that they come to the sensible conclusion that the singular ingredient, maple and honey products, should be exempt from the added sugar label." So the FDA said it's received more than 3,000 public comments in response to the proposed label for maple syrup and honey. And Peter Welch has kind of in an off-the-cuff way said that the added sugar proposal was pretty wacky. So yeah, so he says he's hoping that they're going to be announcing revoking the added sugar requirement as it stands. And Peter Welch says it's too early to declare victory, but the FDA's announcement is an indication that maybe the agency is changing its mind. We're getting this information from VPR.
Right.
So I don't know if you guys want to chime in on this story at all, add in your own personal thoughts.
It's a great example of people power.
Yeah.
The agricultural industry is alive and well. We have lobbyists, as Vermont experienced with its own GMO labeling law that was preempted by federal regulations. There is a strong contingent of people who are making lots and lots and lots of money off of these labels and what that means. I would like to circle back to that GMO conversation because lots of people didn't want to add labels then. So I think that this is a great example of 3,000 people speaking up and changing something. In Vermont, that's a relatively small percentage of the population. I think we could easily organize 3,000 people. So let's start paying attention to the other things that those folks can do and start concentrating on that political power side.
Yeah.
Yep. This goes beyond maple syrup.
This is bigger than maple
This is
syrup,
bigger than
folks.
maple syrup.
This is
This
bigger
is
than
about people power.
Speaking of people power, we've talked about a lot of things so far this evening. We've spoken about the community survey, Nina Turner's presence, and is going to be offering those forums, early voting, and maple syrup. So I wanted to turn it over to you guys and say that if somebody was watching this program and wanted to get involved, had some thoughts about something that an issue that mattered or a campaign they wanted to be a part of, what would you suggest they do right after the program airs to get involved in that?
Take the community survey. That's a great first step.
I think that the community survey, which is www.radvt.org/community_survey.
Very good.
Oh yeah, it's up there. Is a great place to start. You can also get paper copies. We're at 241 North Winooski if you want to come visit us at our office. Additionally, part of our work is really just connecting with people and developing the relationships that are going to be required to build the power that we're talking about. So again, email us, reach out, sign up to volunteer on the website. We do follow up with that. info@radvt.org is a real website, is a real email address. We'll respond to it. And I'll come and I'll sit down with you wherever you are, at your home. We'll talk about what it means to be involved in this organization, and that's the promise I make.
That's pretty great. Elise, did you
Yeah.
want to share?
Definitely coming out to any of these amazing events that we're going to be throwing with Senator Turner would be great. And like I had mentioned earlier, we're going to have this endorsement process, and at the end of that, a bunch of amazing candidates who we really want to get behind because we as we saw in the State House this year with the way that family medical leave insurance and the $15 an hour wage went down, we have a lot of work to do to get a veto-proof majority in the House, and so we're going to be doing a lot of work on that. If elections are your thing, if you want to support a candidate, even just breaking into that kind of work, this is going to be a great opportunity to do that, and RAD can help you plug in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And now more than ever, based on all of the things that are going on, if you feel like there's an issue or something that really, really matters to you, it's easy to get involved either with RAD or on your own, looking towards kind of a campaign that you want to help out with, that sort of thing. And so make sure that you're getting involved in your community and responding to issues that are important to you and being involved there. And part of that is taking the community survey. If this is a way to kind of get those thoughts out there, to talk about the issues that are relevant, that matter to you. Once again, Emma has already spoken a little bit about the access that online, but if you want to come in person, you can do that as well. So ultimately, at this point, yeah, I don't know if you wanted to add anything onto that, or we good?
Should we talk about like house parties, survey house parties?
Yeah,
What those look like?
Definitely.
Yeah.
One of our favorite ways to talk to people more than one-on-one, but smaller than an event, is to have a house party. And that means inviting your personal network into your home. So that's your friends, your neighbors, whoever you're already doing your organizing work or your social life with, and asking them to do the survey all together. And it can prompt some really nice conversations. And we have a toolkit for that sort of work, so we're not going to throw in anyone blind and just be like, go, here are some copies, just do it. It'll start with a phone call, and we'll help you set up a time and give you that toolkit and probably be present there to help facilitate that as well. And those can be as small as 5 people or as large as 15, depending on what someone wants to take on.
Yep.
So if I'm somebody who wants to get involved with RAD, what is the best way to do that? When are the meetings? How could I do that?
Well, the Burlington Organizing Team meeting meets every 4th Monday, correct? It has not changed yet, at 241 North Winooski, and that's a meeting that's open to anybody who is even the slightest bit interested. I'd say come out to our fundraiser on Saturday. Even though it's not so much a work-oriented place, it's a great way to meet the other people in this community that are getting down with RAD,
Yeah.
if you will. Another one is a big portion of my job as lead organizer is to go out there and find folks that want to have a longer conversation about what their work can look like. Again, volunteering on the website, even liking us on Facebook, right, is such a great way to just stay informed in the work that we're doing, or signing up for our email list. So we're trying to build a really accessible movement here.
Potato,
right?
potato.
Right, potato, potato.
that's all, yeah,
we talk
that's
about that a lot. And then that's our goal. So the smallest thing can go a really far way.
Yeah. And when we talk about this idea of people power, right? It's like we are really designed so that we are accessible in that way, and so that like everyone has a role, because everyone does have to have a role if we are going to be building the movement in a sustainable way and a powerful way. And it really all comes down to everyone's got to be doing their part to affect change. So.
Absolutely. A couple of other important pieces of information before we wrap the show tonight. If you want to show your support for the UVM Medical Center nurses, so on Friday night, if you've been following this at all, they're bargaining for improved working conditions, safe staffing, fair compensation. They're lobbying for at least $15 an hour for everyone who works at the hospital. This is a situation that's been going on for a while, and right now we're seeing a push towards some kind of a solution. So there's a community information event tonight, Friday the 22nd at 6 p.m. at Burlington High School. So if you're watching this and dying to get involved there, you can just cruise right over after the program. We're going to wrap up very soon. So if you want to check that out, that's a great way to get involved right now. If you still want to be involved but don't necessarily want to jump right into that meeting, you can be in part of either the community meetings on the 29th. Those are going to be in Rutland and in Bennington. And then on the 30th, Nina Turner is going to be here in Burlington from 7 to 9, and where is that?
The Robert Miller Community Center in the Old North End. If you live in the New North End, I live in the Old North End. And if you are a voter in Ward 4, that's your polling place.
There we go.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Actually, no.
So all of those, and not to mention, we've already talked a little bit about early voting, but it's really key that if you're interested in early voting, that's going to open up a week from today, and then carry all the way through to the primaries on August 14th. So as the summer is heating up, we're going to be seeing a lot from the gubernatorial candidates. As we mentioned before, that's Brenda Siegel, James Ellers, Christine Hallquist, and Ethan Sunborn. So it's important to make your decisions there. And if there's an issue that you feel you haven't been able to address, but you want to, either ask for a physical copy of the community survey, or you can find that online as well. We're always looking for feedback and to try to understand what issues matter to you, so that as an organization, we can work to make sure that those issues are going to be resolved in some way. And if you want to be a part of the solution, we're always looking for volunteers and for people to help out on that. So thanks for watching. Have a great rest of the night. And from the rest of us at RADTV, thanks. We'll see you next month.